the Blueprint Podcast with David Lamb. How great businesses are built.
Hello and welcome in to the Blueprint Podcast. Here with Dan Starnes, and we're in the new offices, the digital side.
Yeah, this is Starnes Digital. This
Okay.
is our office for our new digital agency.
All right. We'll learn more. Starnes, some incredible things going on. Looking forward to our conversation. Let me do an official bio here for Dan, for those of you who may not be familiar with him. Dan Starnes, he's the president of Starnes Media, a company that includes Starnes Publishing, Starnes Digital as well, since the founding of Starnes Publishing in 2008. It's hard to believe you've done so much just since 2008, Dan. You're busy. The company has grown to a total now of 7 titles, correct?
Correct.
Okay, the company has been recognized both locally and nationally for its growth and was once again included in the Inc. 5000, that ranking that they do of businesses to watch, made it for 2017. So congratulations, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Things seem to be going pretty well.
They are. We have a lot going on, and things are going well, and we have a lot to do.
Yeah, I bet you do. You got a lot of ground to cover. You're from Georgia, is that correct?
I am. I grew up in a small town named Cedartown, Georgia.
Cedartown.
Yeah.
Other than Dan Starnes and your brother who's famous, I guess who's the most famous Cedartown resident?
The two most famous Cedartown natives right now would be Sam Hunt, the singer.
Oh, really? Who played at UAB?
Yeah, he played at UAB, and
Yeah.
I knew him when he was 2 years old. I haven't talked to him lately. He was a little bit younger than me. And then Nick Chubb, who's a running back for the Georgia Bulldogs. So,
not bad.
We've got good. Prior to that, the more famous Cedartonians would have been Cedartown natives would have been Doug Sanders, who was one of the. If you've ever seen that highlight of the guy missing the 1.5-foot putt to win the British Open in about 1970, early 1970s,
Right.
That was Doug Sanders. He was one of those guys that was the best player never to win a major, that kind of guy.
Uh-huh.
And then there was a guy named Sterling Holloway who was the voice of Winnie the Pooh. So there's your Cedartown, Georgia trivia.
Yeah. The Chamber of Commerce will send you a check.
Yeah, and Waylon Jennings has a song named Cedartown, Georgia, a very old song. But
So how did you end up in Alabama?
I came to Birmingham. I was in the golf business. I came to be an assistant golf professional at a country club here.
Okay.
And that's why I moved to Birmingham.
Right. So golf brought you here.
Yep.
And do you get to play much anymore?
I never play anymore. I've played probably twice in about 7 or 8 years. It's one of those things I just got away from. Golf takes a lot of time and is it's kind of a big commitment. And once I got out of the business, I played for about 1.5 years.
Right.
But once I got into this business, really serious, I just ran out of time. Now I have a 3-year-old son, so he will be introduced at some point in the near future. And if that's what he likes and that's what he wants to do, that's what we'll be doing. If he wants to do something else, we'll be doing that.
Yeah.
So that's the way that'll be.
Yeah, when you're an entrepreneur, starting a business becomes your job, your hobby, and everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And it's when I first started out, I was kind of I don't want to say I was a one-man show, but I was my only full-time employee. So
Right.
It really took a lot of time and mental energy to kind of build the business and grow, and I really didn't have time for anything else. And strangely enough, 9 years later, when we have about 30 full-time employees, that part of it still hasn't changed a lot.
Really?
It's kind of an all-consuming thing,
Yeah.
but that's the way it goes.
All right, so let's go back to the early days of what is now Starnes Media. So were you a golf pro? Is that like your day, or were you a part-time golf pro and working at the publication at the time?
So I had left the golf business. I didn't understand instruction, and I didn't really like the retail aspect of it. And so a golf lesson with me was kind of like, you would come down to the range, I would watch you hit balls for about 30 minutes. We'd start with a wedge, work our way up to maybe a longer iron or a driver at the end, and then after 30 minutes, I just wanted to look at you and tell you to lower your expectations. 'Cause that was the best thing I could say to help you. I didn't understand the golf swing, and
That is good advice in golf, though. Lower your expectations.
I think that's the advice that 99% of golfers need.
Right.
Just enjoy the day.
Yeah.
Try to keep it in the fairway.
Right.
But So that business wasn't for me. I was never gonna be very good at that. And so I left that and was going back to school. I'm somebody who I didn't really take full advantage of my college experience, or some people would say I did take full advantage of it. But anyway, I was going back to school to try to finish my degree, and I was looking for sales jobs. I was caddying out at Shoal Creek because I had caddied before becoming a golf professional and like to be out on the course. And so I was doing that and looking for sales jobs, and I really couldn't find what I wanted.
Right.
And I took the job with 280 Living, which is the first publication I bought, just because I thought it was kind of a silly job that I could quit guilt-free if I found something that I really wanted.
Right.
And I thought I could quit in 3 days or 3 weeks. And in 3 months, I owned it. And so at that time, it was 8 or 9 months old when I became the owner of the publication. And I just felt like, well, if I can be the owner, and I can make it work to any degree, any level,
Right.
that sounds pretty cool. That sounds great. And so that's how we started out. And that was June of 2008, the middle of the recession.
Right.
Had no money and no credit and no experience in
And
publishing.
you're getting into publishing.
Yeah, so it was a perfect place to start,
This is textbook.
Yeah.
So did you have a grand plan? Did you have visions of grandeur as you were signing to purchase 280 Living?
Absolutely not. My only vision was putting out the next issue,
Right.
and how are we going to put out the next issue? I don't know. I don't even know how to do anything. I don't even know anything about graphic design or the printing or, getting it mailed or nothing. But it only came out once a month, so it was offered to me right after the June of 2008 issue came out.
Right.
And so I had basically 30 days to get the next issue out, knowing nothing. And but I knew that there were people who knew. So,
Right. So you'd find your way
I
to
don't
them.
know. I don't know, but somebody does,
Right.
and we'll figure it out.
As you look back on that, was that a fun time or was that harrowing? Was it like slogging through mud?
It was both. It was fun and harrowing. I mean, I was fully confident that we could do it, even though I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
I knew that we could figure it out. I knew that we could work really hard, and we were fortunate because what we did have, the publication did already exist. So there were a
Right.
few clients.
Uh-huh.
There were enough clients already in it or almost enough to kind of put out that next issue.
Right.
And so I looked down. I had about $1,500 to my name at that
Okay.
point. It was going to cost me, I think, $7,000 or $8,000 to put out that next issue. I talked to my mom. She loaned me $3,000, so I had $4,500, and I knew I had to pay the printer up front and the postage up front, and I only had 2 contractors that I had to pay, and I knew I could tell them, I'm going to pay you the 15th of the month, so I buy 2 weeks.
Right.
And so basically I just had to hit the ground running and go out and sell some ads and collect the payments and totally bootstrap it to get it started.
Of the whole starting up of that, what came the most natural and the easiest to you? Was it the selling?
I guess it was the selling because I had already sold some, but I just think the resourcefulness and kind of the determination is the part
Right.
that came the most natural and easy to me.
Mm-hmm.
And just it didn't really cross my mind that we might not be able to do it.
Right.
I just knew I had to figure out
Yeah.
how to do it.
Yeah.
But
Are you a natural entrepreneur?
I think I am. Once I got into business for myself, I realized that I like being in business for myself. I like doing my own thing, and I like to make new things happen, which I think are all qualities of entrepreneurs.
Right.
So yeah, I think I am.
So did you grow up in the home of an entrepreneur? Is that?
I did not. Both my parents were teachers. They were far
Okay.
from entrepreneurs. My mother was a college English professor, and my father was an elementary school principal. Now, my father, he was a really creative, intellectually curious person who always wanted to learn new things and do new things. And I think he had, in those ways, he had some of the makings of being an entrepreneur, and he could build things and make things and just innovate. And if we needed something, he could design and build it.
Right.
But he wasn't technically an entrepreneur.
Yeah. We've done now, this is our 27th podcast, and there are several of the past folks we've talked to who their parents have been teachers. I don't know what you can take from that, but many folks who start businesses, I don't know what the educators do. Maybe the creative minds, maybe.
Yeah, maybe so. And that's interesting because my wife now works with us full time, and she was formerly a teacher, and she taught in Birmingham City Schools for 15 years, and then was the Alabama Teacher of the Year, and now she works with us.
Good get right there.
Yeah, it was.
All right, so you've got 280 living.
Right.
How long until you take on a new property?
So that was June of 2008, and
Okay.
In 2009 I started dating my wife, Allison, and sometime in 2009 she went to Chicago to visit a friend and picked up a community newspaper that was in the North Shore suburbs of Chicago, and they had zones, so they had not unlike my model, but the publication was different, but from the zone respect, it wasn't unlike it. And she brought it back to me, and it had a little map of the zone on the front, and it's like we looked at that, and that's the reason she brought it back, and it kind of clicked.
Yeah.
And so I lived in Park Lane Apartments in Mountain Brook behind the old Western there. And I would walk to the post office every day. That's where my post office box for the business was. And I thought, this would be a good community for this model, for my business model. And I didn't really know how to start a publication because I hadn't done that yet. And I thought, well, there's the Over the Mountain Journal. It's been around for a long time. It's a great publication. People love it. The city has a quarterly newsletter dedicated to the community, and but then I just decided, well, this is still the place to try it out. So we started planning that, I guess, in early 2010, and put the first issue out in April of 2010.
Okay.
And so I didn't even meet the person who wrote the cover story for the first issue until about 2 weeks before it came out. But I knew what the story was going to be because it was earlier in the I don't know if you remember the Lane Park development over there, all that went on with the different versions of it, the different plans. So it was in the thick of that, and so that was I knew that would be our first story. I thought, we put this on the cover, mail it into every home in the community, and people will pay attention.
It'd be all over.
And they did. And we didn't even pre-sell that first issue because I didn't feel like I could take a 280 publication into Mountain Brook businesses and show it to them and say, oh, we're going to start this in Mountain Brook, and have them really buy in.
Right.
So I thought, we were able to sign a couple of advertisers. We signed one big one, and then we signed Realty South for the back cover, which was huge, and then maybe one or two other small ones. Then I just gave away some ads to our good clients and friends just so there would be a few ads in it, and put out the first issue of Village Living in Mountain Brook. And so that was how it started. And one day after that publication came out, somebody called me from Homewood. One day after it came out, somebody called me from the Homewood Chamber of Commerce and said, will you please come publish a paper in Homewood? And I thought, well, maybe we're on to something, And I told her, I said, well, we have to get the one we started yesterday to break even before we can consider starting another one.
And how long did that take?
I'm not sure how long it took, but it took us a year to start the next publication.
Okay, so a year later you do the Homewood Star?
Yeah, we started the Homewood Star in April of 2011, and then we started the Hoover Sun in October of 2012, and that just coincidentally happened right at the same time that the Birmingham News announced that they were cutting from 7 days a week to 3 days a week. So that announcement came out along the same time we were announcing that we were starting the Hoover Sun, and so that we got some publicity and a lot of praise because of that. Although we were monthly publication. The whole city was losing a daily paper. But so that was October 2012. Then in May of 2013, we started the Vestavia Voice in Vestavia Hills. Then it took us a little while to start the next one. In November of 2015, we started Cahaba Sun in Trussville. And then in June of 2016, we started Iron City Inc. in Birmingham. And so that's a newer and it's a different publication because it's a different community, unlike Vestavia Hills where or Homewood or some of the suburbs where I can mail a publication into every home. Can't really do that in Birmingham.
Right,
I can't make the numbers work. So
is that more newsstand kind of?
Well, we still mail it, but we mail it to kind of the revitalization areas,
Right.
And then we have a lot more rack copies than we do in our other publications. We have we do have more rack copies for that publication than we do for all the other papers combined.
Do you think this area is saturated, or is there more opportunity here, you think?
I think there's a few more opportunities. We haven't set this is something definite we'll move forward on, but I think there are a few more opportunities, but we've rounded out everywhere that when I initially did start to have a grand plan, we've kind of hit everywhere. And
have you thought
plus
of
one or two more?
Right. Have you thought of going out of the city?
I have thought of going out of the city, and we may do that, but it's a whole nother ball game when you're leaving, kind of your comfort zone, and you can kind of see the people working in your business on a daily basis. And any entrepreneur, I think that has gone out and branched out would say.
Runs into that. Help me understand how your thought process works. So do you have a group that you kind of, whenever you're thinking of expanding to a new area and opening a new one, is there a group of people you kind of run things by? What does that process look like for you?
Yeah, there's kind of an unofficial group of people, and I have a few friends that are successful entrepreneurs and done a lot of things in business. Obviously, our management team and kind of our core people, we bounce things off of. But I kind of take the advice where I can get it, and I'm always looking for it, because I always feel like there's somebody who knows, who knows the answers that we're looking for. Yeah,
and now the going into the digital route that's kind of like opening a new venture in a way, isn't it? We started the digital company, Starnes Digital. We really started it more than a year ago, but we've just now started to promote it a little bit, and it's like starting several publications in a way because all the work is so complex. It's when you build somebody an ad. You design it, go back and forth a couple of times, put it on the page, the ink does its job, the paper does its job, it's gone, you're done. Yeah. But when you're building somebody a website and you have scope creep, or then they decide let's do a video, as and I mean things just, there's just a lot more, there's a lot more to do. Right.
So we started that business more than a year ago, and we've been diligently building our team, and we have a handful of clients, well more than a handful of clients, and that side of the business right now, but we're kind of getting to a place where we're ready to take on more. And we bought and renovated this building, and you see we've got a few finishing touches to put on the building, but if you'd seen it 6 months ago, you'd see it's come a long way.
Yeah. And just so folks know, we're in the heart of Homewood, and this is the old
Rosenberger's Birmingham trunk building.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, right
on
here.
19th Street in Homewood. And our publishing company is 2 doors down in a building we bought in 2015. And the sign on it still says the Becker Building. We're working on our exterior renovation plans for both buildings now, but we haven't done that yet.
I found a quote. This is your quote, so I'm going to give you your own words. So you got to watch what you say. It all gets in print.
Hopefully, I really said it. Yeah.
It said, "If you make the decision to grow, it's going to be scary at times," is what you said in some interview. So I guess you faced your fears since you've grown quite a bit.
Well, that's for me, that's anytime you're going to do something like that, you have to realize, what if I fail? Right. And you have to walk through that fear. But yeah, it's
Are you a risky guy?
I think I'm comfortable with risk.
Okay.
Yeah. I use some behavior assessments, some profiles, and that's one of the things it says about me that I agree with, and I'm comfortable with risk.
Right.
So,
because I've never met you, but you have the vibe of a golf pro. You really still have that vibe. Just kind of, you're like strolling through life. Like the fairway.
Right.
Is that on the inside? Like, because I would bet running this business at times, it has gotten tense. It is rough. I mean, it's real work doing what you're doing. But I mean, on the inside, are you able to kind of, what you see on the outside, not exactly what's going on the inside?
Yeah, there's, like the duck swimming on the, that story, the duck swimming on the smooth surface. There's a lot going on underneath.
Right.
So yeah, it's, I definitely wouldn't say I'm strolling through, and it's there's a lot to do. There's a lot to think about anytime you have a business and you have, you're growing and you're adding new people and you're trying to do new things and trying to push yourself. There's it can get stressful at times.
Yeah. But I mean, is that the kind of leader though you want to be? Because now you're a leader of a large company. There are a number of families now that depend on you.
Right.
Do you think that is this are these characteristics of what a leader should look like and act like?
Well, I've one of the things I told you is my wife came in to work with us, Allison Grizzle. And she was the 2013-2014 Alabama Teacher of the Year. And then she went and worked for the State Department of Education for a few years. And then last year, I just told her, I really need you in the business because I'm seeing this person, every day who is one of the smartest, most effective people I've ever met. And her strengths are really coaching people. Right. And I need that because that is not a strength of mine. It's just not. My strengths are kind of finding new opportunities and pushing for more. But I'm just not good at helping. I can set high expectations for you, but I'm not very good at helping you get there. Right. And it's and I can try to be and I want to be, but it's just not my strength. But it is her strength, and so she's really, really made a huge impact on this company. And I'd like to be the leader that's really good at pats on the back and praise, but it doesn't come naturally to me. Right. I'll be honest. I do have to. That's something I have to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think smart leaders, they surround themselves with people that make up for where there are some gaps. I think. Yeah, that's smart.
The goal is to become obsolete, isn't it? I mean, that's
where really, you're trying to get to. Huh?
Yeah.
How do you hire such great people? One of the folks who have sat right across from me, their biggest challenge is finding, keeping talented people. You have some really talented folks on your team.
We do. We have some amazing people on our team, and we have gotten a really. We've put a lot of time into our hiring process in the last few years and learning how to find the right people. And, we do several things. One is really understanding, round pegs and round holes and, square pegs. And, like I told you, we use some behavior tools, and it's not it's certainly not a make or break thing, but it helps, identify people that are, that fit with certain jobs. If you know what kind of characteristics the job takes, and you know what kind of person this person is, it really helps you. I mean, I might really need a job, and you might have an opening for an administrative assistant, and I might for whatever reason end up in that interview and be able to put on a good interview and impress you, and we get along, and then you hire me to do the job. Well, then we have a problem because I can't do the work. Right. I can't pay attention to detail. I can't do it. So knowing the right fit, and then we're fortunate, especially with our journalists, that it's a thing that's unfortunate in a lot of ways, but it's good for us, is that there aren't an overabundance of opportunities anymore in journalism. So it allows us to get the best and the brightest more easily than we could have.
Yeah, a lot of talented folks looking for work.
Yeah, there are, and so that's helped.
You grew in print at a time when everyone was saying print is dead.
Right.
So were a lot of people telling you, Dan, do you know what you're doing? Have you lost it here?
Not really, because people really welcomed what we were doing, because people welcomed having a publication in their community, and they thought it was great, and they realized, well, if you can make it work, more power to you. Right. And you know, people were happy about that. And let's face it, I was started from a place where I wasn't, you know, it wasn't like I walked away from some great career to start. Not that there's anything wrong with the golf business, but I was already out of that. But to start, you know, I'd pour my life savings into community newspapers. I mean, we started with no money and just kind of just built on it.
Right.
Know, just scraped our way up.
Yeah. What is a tip for seeing opportunity where others see dust?
So one time I was looking for work, and I was I took this. I didn't take this job. I think I took like an orientation for some door-to-door salesman job, which I've actually done a door-to-door salesman job before. But this guy in the session said, you know, the key to being successful is being willing to do what others are not willing to do. Right. And I didn't take that job because that wasn't what I wanted to do. But I remembered that guy saying that, and I think it's just really true. You know, to me, the opportunity to have 280 Living was just an opportunity to own something and possibly make any living at all. And at the time, you know, I thought, well, if it's 6 months or 6 years, that either one would be great. Yeah. And but doing the work that was required at the beginning without really borrowing money or, you know, going into debt required me to work in a way that most people just wouldn't be willing to, you know. And so that always keeps me going, thinking, well, you know, I've done it before. I can do, right. You know, I can start over if I had to, you know, not that we feel like we have to, but it's always, you know, if you own a business, it's always kind of something that, in my opinion, that you think about, well, you know, I've done it before, and I can do it again if I needed to.
Now, you may not, I guess, have a lot of experience prior to getting into this industry in print, but you have a brother that is an incredible. Right. Your brother is a gifted writer. I guess you know that. Right. I guess so. Did he influence your decision much at all?
He influenced me greatly, and he was a journalist. My brother Sam Starnes, Joe Samuel Starnes, is also he's a novelist, and he influenced me a lot and really helped me a lot in those first days, those early days. I was not able to, you know, I really wasn't a writer or an editor, although I did a fair amount of writing and editing at that time. But he was able to help me. I might have a story and say, hey, we want this to go on the cover. I know it's not great. You know, can I send it to you and you work on it? And he would do that. And he also, you know, just really emphasized just quality local content, you know, to connect to original local content, to connect to the communities. But he helped me a lot and gave me a lot of good advice, a lot of good tips.
Yeah. I guess he's kind of served as a mentor. Anybody else that served as a mentor to you in this development?
Well, there's really lots of people. Like I said, I've always kind of taken it where I can get it, and I feel like I can always get a business lesson from somebody successful in business if I can just, you know, talk to them for a few minutes, even if they may not even realize it. I have a good friend, Clay Simmons, who founded a company, Bradford Health Services, and he's grown that into a large company from a small company over a 30-year period of time, and he's helped me a lot. And then I've had there's been a lot of people. I mean, I think of there's just so many people, and anytime I meet somebody, I feel like I can learn something from them.
Yeah. You're in an industry where you probably have to do a lot of reading. Do you do much recreational reading or business book kind of reading?
I do. I try to. I've realized that the business book type reading, sometimes I do better if I listen to it.
Okay.
I can consume it faster because, hey, you can do it while you're driving, or doing something
I'm an audiobook
else.
fan myself.
You can do it while you're doing something else. And, I've recently started reading more novels recently because you can read those and not, it's just easier. You don't have to think. The story just kind of takes you along,
Yeah. Business book wise, anything that's been influential or a book, maybe anything recently you've read you really enjoyed?
Well, right now I'm reading a few different books. One is the Undoing Project. Have you read that one? Heard about that one? It's Michael Lewis's newer book. And
I've heard about that. Yep.
Read a book last year, Grit, that was really good.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard that. I got that tip from Nick Saban. We went to a Nick's Kids thing for this nonprofit I'm associated with, and he spoke last year, and he mentioned that, and that was really good. We've read, as a team, our management team has read a few of the Michael Lencioni books recently, The 5 Dysfunctions of Teams.
Yeah.
And there's a book called Who that's about the hiring process that's really helped us recently. So, yeah, I consume a lot of those, and I feel like even if you can't read every word of it, you can find things that'll help you out of it, and listening to them is always an easy way to go.
How for a guy that's a former golfer who does not golf much, how do you get away from the crazy publishing industry that you're now involved in? How do you relax?
Well, I have a 3-year-old. I don't know if this is relaxing, but that's one of my favorite, spending time with him. It's a fun age. He'll actually be 3 in 2 weeks, from yesterday. And so, basically work and family life are all my time now.
Yeah.
If I might spend a little time reading a novel or something like that. We do have some travel coming up soon, but
do you go to many Georgia football games?
I don't. I haven't gone in the last few years. We've gone to about one game a year the last few years, but I am going to South Bend this week.
Oh, that's right. So, we tape, Georgia goes to Notre Dame.
So Friday we're going to see the Cubs in Wrigley, and then Saturday Georgia at Notre Dame. So that's a pretty good doubleheader weekend. Yeah.
Good job. Did I may be about to embarrass myself because I researched a little about you and found something called fly tying.
Okay.
Is that, do you do that? What is that?
Fly tying?
Yeah.
Like tying flies for fly
Are you a big
fishing?
fisherman?
No, I'm not a big fisherman. I picked up fly fishing probably 8 years ago or so, and I was a lot more active of a fly fisherman for the first few years than I have been lately. That's another thing that's kind of fallen by the wayside.
Yeah. So that has to do with fly fishing.
Yeah. So you tie the flies, and so I did a little fly tying a few years ago, but I haven't done any of that in years. Although that's another thing, I'll introduce my son to fishing, and if that's what he wants to do, and that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
So,
are you surprised by your success?
Yes and no. And I mean, I think the success is kind of, it's kind of relative because I always want to do so much more. I don't always feel like we're really successful. Like, I feel like, well, there's so much more we could do. And when people say things like, well, look at all you've done in 10 years, I kind of feel like, well, this is all we've done in 10 years. I mean, we can do more.
Yeah.
We can do bigger and better things. And, so yes and no. I mean, looking back on it, looking at exactly how we started out, it's a pretty amazing journey, and we've just been really blessed to get really good people to join us along the way, because that's the whole key. And but I feel like there's a lot more that we can do, that we're kind of still at the beginning.
Yeah. Final question for me: what's the lesson others can learn from the Dan Starnes and Starnes Media story?
That really, I mean, I think it's just really simple. It's just hard work and perseverance is worth it. I mean, you've only got 24 hours in a day, and what are you going to do with it? And it's, do you put your time in, trying to accomplish whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, or do you you give up easily and say, oh, that didn't work, I'll go do something different. You know, and that's to me that to just being able to stick with it and say, okay, here's where we are, even if it's low and it's not very good and it's not much, can we get to here next month and here next month and here next month, and can we just keep getting better, and am I willing to put in the work to do it? You know, that's the key factor in my opinion. So,
and you put in a lot of work.
well,
Thank you for the time, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, glad to tell your story, and we're fans. My background is media, so I love what you guys do and believe in that local voice. So keep up the great work. We need you. We need you in this community for sure.
Thank you.
Dan Starnes, Starnes Media. What a neat story. Wherever you're listening from, probably have a publication in your community. Encourage you to support them. As we wrap things up here, just a couple of reminders. You can find us on our webpage, blueprintpod.com is where you can find us there and listen to other great interviews, just like the one we just did with Dan. You'll also find us on Facebook, Blueprint Pod. Would love to connect with you there and get your feedback, because we're always better with your involvement. We appreciate the time, and we'll look for you next time right here on the Blueprint Podcast.
The Blueprint Podcast with David Lamb. Ted Putman, executive producer. Robbie Lamb, web guru. The Blueprint Podcast. Copyright 2017 DLM.
It's something you know all about. You know all about. Well, can we do the 5 questions? We'll knock these out real quick.
Oh, absolutely.